I never thought one old email could save someone from financial disaster, but that's exactly what happened to my cousin. Imagine this. You work hard, you save money, you build something beautiful on your property, and you enjoy it for years. Then suddenly, a new HOA board takes over and demands you destroy it, or face daily fines that could bankrupt you. That's the nightmare my cousin lived through. And the face of that nightmare. A woman everyone in the neighborhood started calling HOA Karen. Have you ever had to fight your HOA and come out on top? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to know how you handled it. When my cousin bought his house, it was more than just a building. It was the symbol of everything he had worked for. A safe place for his family, a fresh start in a neighborhood that looked quiet and friendly. At first, the HOA seemed harmless. They were laid back, easy to get along with, and mostly concerned about keeping the streets safe and tidy. But my cousin wasn't just content with a plain backyard. From the beginning, he dreamed of creating a space where his family could relax, celebrate, and enjoy life together. His vision was clear, a wooden patio awning that stretched across the back of the house, complete with chairs, a table, and a grill. He could already picture barbecues in the summer, birthday parties for his kids, and quiet evenings with a book under the shade. The only problem was money. It wasn't a small project. So, he saved patiently. For months, he cut expenses, skipped luxuries, and slowly built up enough to make his dream real. When the day finally came, he was too cautious to just start building. He wanted to follow the rules, so he emailed the HOA to ask for permission. The board at the time responded casually, "Go ahead." That was all he needed. He felt secure knowing they were aware of his plan. The project wasn't easy. Contractors came, sawdust flew, and for weeks, the yard looked like a construction zone. But when it was finished, it was breathtaking. The wooden beams glowed with fresh polish, the patio beneath looked inviting, and the entire structure blended perfectly with the house. It became more than just a backyard feature. It was a stage for memories. Family dinners, neighborhood get-togethers, even moments of quiet reflection, all happened under that awning. For years, nobody complained. Neighbors loved it, and some even admired it so much they wanted one of their own. Life was peaceful until the HOA changed. After several years, the old HOA board stepped down. A new group stepped in, and they came with clipboards, rules, and a completely different attitude. Suddenly, the friendly association transformed into a strict, nitpicking watchdog. Notices started piling up on porches, trash cans left out too long, flower beds that weren't uniform, and cars parked at slightly odd angles. And leading the charge was a woman who quickly earned a reputation in the community. Her name wasn't Karen, but her behavior fit the title so perfectly that everyone whispered it behind her back, HOA Karen. Karen treated the neighborhood as if it were her personal empire. She strutted around like she was a sheriff, snapping photos of violations and sending long emails about property values. She wasn't just strict, she was relentless, and it didn't take long before her eyes landed on my cousin's patio. Karen's first move was subtle. She started walking by my cousin's house more frequently, always with her phone in hand, taking pictures from different angles. Neighbors began warning him, "She's been circling your place like a vulture," one said. Another mentioned seeing her measuring something near his fence line with a small ruler, muttering under her breath about setback violations. The psychological warfare began before any official letter arrived. Karen would slow down when driving past his house, staring at the patio with obvious disapproval. During neighborhood walks, she'd stop other residents and point toward his backyard, shaking her head dramatically. "Some people think the rules don't apply to them," she'd say loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. One afternoon, my cousin pulled a letter from his mailbox that made his stomach drop. The HOA, led by Karen, had declared his wooden patio awning unapproved. According to them, there was no record of him ever asking for permission. They demanded he tear it down immediately. But it didn't stop there. The letter also threatened heavy fines if he refused hundreds of dollars every single day until the awning was gone. For my cousin, it felt like a punch in the gut. He had asked permission. He had done everything right. And now, years later, this new HOA board was acting as if none of that mattered. He tried reasoning with them, explaining that he had asked and been approved, but Karen and her board were cold and unyielding. "If it's not documented, it doesn't exist," was the message they repeated over and over. What made it worse was Karen's public campaign against him. She started attending every HOA meeting, using his patio as an example of flagrant disregard for community standards. She'd stand at the podium, gesturing wildly, claiming that unauthorized structures were bringing down everyone's property values. Neighbors who had once complimented his patio now avoided eye contact, afraid of becoming Karen's next target. The emotional toll was devastating. My cousin's wife began having trouble sleeping, constantly worrying about the mounting legal threats. Their kids, who had grown up playing under that awning, asked why strangers wanted to take away their favorite spot. Family gatherings became tense affairs, with relatives offering unsolicited advice ranging from just tear it down to fight them in court. Karen escalated her tactics. She began leaving notes on his car windshield, not official HOA business, but personal messages, like "Some of us care about our community's appearance, and your neighbors are watching." She organized what she called neighborhood improvement walks, which were really just opportunities to gather allies and point out his violation to newcomers. The fight dragged on for months. My cousin sent letters, emails, and photos of the patio, hoping common sense would prevail. But Karen wasn't interested in common sense. To her, it was about control. She wanted the patio gone, and nothing he said made a difference. Each trip to the mailbox filled him with dread. Every new envelope from the HOA carried more threats, more demands, more stress. He felt trapped, as if the place that was supposed to be his safe haven had turned into a battlefield. Karen's power trip extended beyond just his case. She installed herself as the neighborhood's unofficial enforcement officer, creating elaborate spreadsheets tracking every minor infraction. She printed laminated cards with HOA rules and slipped them under doors. She even started a group chat called Community Standards Watch, where she encouraged neighbors to report each other for violations. The financial pressure was crushing. Karen pushed the HOA to increase the daily fines from hundreds to thousands of dollars. She argued that swift, decisive action was needed to prevent other homeowners from following his example of lawlessness. The threat of bankruptcy became real. My cousin consulted with lawyers, but the legal fees alone could have cost more than just tearing down the patio. Friends told him to just give up, to tear it down and move on. But something inside him refused. That patio wasn't just wood. It was years of savings, countless family memories, and the pride of building something beautiful. More importantly, he knew he was right. He had followed the rules, and he wasn't going to let Karen's tyranny rewrite history. And then, he remembered the email. It had been years since he'd written to the old HOA board, but he knew he hadn't imagined it. He had asked for permission. He had received approval. The problem was finding proof. He spent night after night digging through old email accounts, trying passwords he barely remembered. He searched through junk folders, scrolled endlessly through forgotten messages, and typed every keyword he could think of: awning, patio, approval. The search became an obsession. He downloaded email recovery software, contacted his old internet service provider, and even reached out to the former HOA president, who had since moved away. That conversation was particularly enlightening. The old president remembered the patio approval clearly and was appalled by Karen's behavior. "She's exactly the kind of person we never wanted on the board," he said. Some nights, he almost gave up. The pressure from Karen and the HOA was crushing. She had begun parking her car across from his house during the day, sitting inside and making phone calls while staring at his patio. The intimidation was working, his stress levels were through the roof, and his family was suffering. But he kept going, and then, finally, he found it. There it was, the original email from years ago. Dated, signed, and crystal clear. The old board had given him permission to build the patio, but it was more than just a simple approval. The email thread showed he had provided detailed plans, measurements, and material specifications. The former HOA president had even complimented his thoroughness and attention to architectural harmony. When he held that printed email in his hands, it felt like holding a shield. For months, he had been on the defensive, beaten down by relentless attacks. Now, he finally had a weapon. But he didn't just send the email, he crafted a comprehensive response. He included the original approval, the detailed plans, photos showing the patio's construction timeline, and testimonials from neighbors who had witnessed the approval process. He also did something brilliant. He copied every homeowner in the neighborhood on his response. Karen had made this a public spectacle, so he decided to make his vindication equally public. The email was professional but firm, laying out the facts in undeniable detail. For a while, silence followed. Karen didn't show up at his door. No new threats arrived in the mail. The neighborhood grew quiet, and then came the board's response. They admitted the patio had been approved. The fines were dropped, the threats ended. He could keep his awning exactly as it was. But the victory went deeper than just keeping his patio. The neighborhood-wide email had exposed Karen's methods to everyone. Residents began sharing their own stories of her harassment and intimidation. A petition started circulating to remove her from the board entirely. Property management companies began warning about overzealous HOA officials, who created legal liability for associations. For Karen, it was a public defeat that ended her reign of terror. She had paraded around as if she ruled the neighborhood, but now her authority looked shaky. Word spread fast. Neighbors whispered about the email, about how Karen had been proven wrong. People who had once been afraid of her started realizing she wasn't invincible. She could be challenged. She could be beaten. The fallout was swift. Karen resigned from the board within 2 weeks, citing personal reasons. Her community standards watch group chat fell silent. The laminated rule cards stopped appearing. Under doors, the neighborhood began healing from months of her toxic leadership. Karen still walked the neighborhood, clipboard in hand, but the aura of power she once carried was gone. Her glares no longer made people nervous. If anything, people smiled when they saw her, knowing she had been outsmarted. Some neighbors even started building their own patio improvements. No longer afraid of Karen's arbitrary enforcement, my cousin's patio still stands today, stronger than ever. Every time I visit, I sit under that wooden awning and think about how close it came to being destroyed. But now, it isn't just a structure, it's a symbol. A reminder that standing up for yourself matters. And it's proof of something so simple yet so powerful. Keep your records. Always save those approvals, those emails, those notes. Because when an HOA or an HOA Karen tries to rewrite history, proof is your best defense. The story became neighborhood legend. New residents are told about the Great Patio War as both entertainment and education. It serves as a reminder that HOA bullies can be stopped, but only when homeowners are prepared to fight back with documentation, persistence, and courage. And, if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We share new HOA stories every single week, and you won't want to miss the next one.